Welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. I am a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, consider hitting that subscribe button, the little red subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when he's back on U.S. soil when we go live or upload another video. And I'm sorry about going live a little bit late tonight and being a little late to the show. I had a couple of things that happened last minute, and you know how that goes. Juggling things left and right. It's like I'm a one-man wrecking crew here. So this is our second live stream of the day, which is very, very unique and very different for Crime Time with DutyRon. I don't usually do it. I usually do one show and then skip a day or two and then come back to you guys. But I think this is very important tonight, Saturday night. I have an opportunity of a window of opportunity. I feel that it's really important to do this show tonight on the Idaho University of Idaho, 4 students who were murdered. There's so much information being transmitted and being put out there, and many different news sources. And I think that I came up with this idea for this tonight's live show. I want to bring you, which I normally bring you, law enforcement professionals. I bring you medical examiners. I bring you forensic anthropologists. I bring you forensic psychologists, auto crime specialists. But tonight I had this idea. Why don't I bring one of our cyber sleuths, one of the people who I actually look at what she does. I look at her timelines. I look at the things that she creates. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they're right on the money. Maybe even more than 9 times out of 10, they're right on the money. So I wanted to take an opportunity to have and showcase and highlight one of the cyber sleuths that's out there that does her homework, that does the work of a detective and puts together great timelines. And what better of a night to do it than on a Saturday night? But before I get into that, I want to say a special thank you to you, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the folks who positively engage here on Crime Time with DutyRon. You guys are what makes this an unbelievably great place. I give thanks and praise to each and every one of you. I thank the moderators, the replay viewers, the folks who, engage with us after the show's over. When you guys leave comments down below in the comment section, that's what makes this an unbelievably great place, because you, my friends, are what makes this happen. This is what makes a great true crime community. All right, so a lot of things going on. We heard early on in this case that the killer or perpetrator or perpetrators entered from the rear of this home. There was very little talk about the perpetrator coming in through that front door where the keypad is, the front door where we see the security guy out there and the police were out there in the beginning and all the cars parked out front. But now the media is going back and they're talking about the potentials for coming in through the rear. And I feel like the rear entrance by the perpetrator or perpetrators is the most logical and the most probable way that this person entered this dwelling. Going through the front, you have more of a chance of people seeing you. You always hear, when you have a home, some of the most vulnerable parts are the backyard, where there's not many eyes. But in this case, there are homes to the rear and to the side, but there is a lot of bush, and there's a better chance of slipping in without anybody seeing him or her through the back. And I think we can all agree on that. So let me just play this little clip that's from Newsnation, and then I will be right with you with our special guest. And she is not going to disappoint. I'm telling you, she's not going to disappoint.
Eye view can yield a lot of clues. A bird's eye view can yield a lot of clues as to how the killer may have made an escape. I want to show you a Google map of the area, and you can see the crime scene is marked in the middle of your screen, 1122 King Road. The Sigma Chi fraternity is down the hill from the house, but it is up at the top of your screen. You can see it there off to the left. On the right is that A&W fast food place and the gas station that's next to Highway 95. And we know the police took surveillance video from that spot, possibly to track that mystery white Hyundai Elantra. Up until now, the prevailing theory has been that the killer approached the house from here, from the front. Real easy to see, real easy to figure out where you're going, especially in the dark. But maybe that killer didn't go through the front door. Maybe the killer went up to the left, up King Road, up here. Maybe they walked to the back, to the sliding glass door or the window that would give them entrance to the kitchen. But what if none of this happened? What if we've gotten it wrong or our assumptions have been way off the mark? What if the killer actually made the approach from the back of the house? Things are a little different if you look at the map. So the Google map will show you that there is a very thick line of trees. It's like a little mini forest that's right behind the house. And if you think about it, that would provide a heck of a lot of cover for anybody trying to approach in the dark undetected. On the other side of those trees, the bottom of your screen is a long snaking road called Walenta Drive. If the killer did indeed come from that direction, I'm going to tell you firsthand, Walenta Drive would be an ideal place to pull over, park your car, get out without being noticed. Because there aren't that many cars in that spot. There aren't that many houses either. Certainly, likely very few ring cams. That spot is also ideal because Walenta Drive provides plenty of ways to get away after a crime. That's because Walenta Drive is not a dead-end street. Far from it. I want you to look at how many escape options there are to drive away from that spot. Route number 1, the killer takes Walenta Drive to Nez Pierce Drive. That's the road that the Sigma Chi house is actually located on, that red line right there. Easy to get away. Route number 2, the killer takes Walenta Drive in the opposite direction. That would take you past the A&W gas station and maybe give you a way to merge onto Highway 95. Route number 3, well, that route joins Taylor Avenue almost immediately. And then you'd pass by that school field. You've heard about it. It's called Banfield. And it also takes you by the A&W gas station before also giving you a real quick exit onto Highway 95. And this one might actually be the most likely route because of what Brian Enton learned yesterday. The owner of a 6-unit rental building on this street here called Linda Lane. See how close it is to the house where the kids were murdered? That owner turned over surveillance video to the police showing, you guessed it, a light-colored or white car driving down Taylor Avenue right around the time of the murders. Now, let's be clear. That could have been the killer's car if the killer had parked on Walenta Drive and taken that last route, Route 3, Taylor Avenue, to the highway. But guess what else it could be? It could have been somebody just driving down Taylor at that same time the killer was. And police just might want to find out if that person driving the white car might have actually seen the killer's car. All of these theories depend on whether the killer actually could approach and escape that crime scene through those thick trees just beyond the backyard. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment because that is one very big if, and it is key to all of those routes and all of those escapes. First, though, word from Moscow police that they have now screened the majority of the content that they have been gathering up from, quote, critical cameras during crucial times before and after the homicides, which really, honestly, that sounds like a milestone. Thing is, they're not saying yet what was seen on those critical cameras at those crucial times. And adding to the frustration, honestly, there are still, quote, hours and hours of content submitted by businesses and homes and by the public that remains to be vetted. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find new.
All right. So I wanted to play that quickly for you guys because I thought it was really important for you guys to see. I felt that this had some good information on it for you guys to see. But at the same time, I was confused because we in the beginning, I mean, Ed Wallace and I spoke on day 2 about the rear entrance of this dwelling. So it was a little bit, but I thought there was good information there with those routes, and I wanted you to see it. But like I said early, before we started here, again, I always bring on people from the law enforcement profession. The law enforcement professions, guys and girls come on here, and I have experts in all different fields. So tonight it's going to be a little different, and we are going to have again, one of the people who I really look to when it comes to timelines, and she definitely does her homework. So without further ado, I want to introduce Sleuthie to everybody. Hey, Sleuthie, thank you for joining, and thank you for coming on a moment's notice. You got your mic muted.
Probably a good thing. I said you caught me before I took my eyelashes off, as you know.
Yeah. Well, again, we talk about this case, and we talk about a lot of cases all the time, back and forth, you and I. And, I know you talk with Jen too occasionally on Twitter and so forth. Mm-hmm. And your timelines in not just this case, in all the cases, are like so tightened up and on point. So I thought, what better than to have somebody like you come on here and grace the airwaves with some of your detective work that you have done. And I just want you to, if you can, walk the audience through how you got started with this cyber sleuthing and so forth, if you care to talk about it, because I think that a lot of people want to know.
Yeah, I think one of the important things is that, in getting into this and wanting to help and be a cyber sleuth and try to keep things organized was more or less, I know the sleuths that I know that we're not law enforcement. We can't do your job, but we like to try to be a supplement. So where you don't have the time and we have the interest and the numbers and the time, in any way that we can help, we want to. Right. The reason that I started doing the timelines was really just for my brain, because there's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of information that's coming from everywhere. And it gets frustrating when you get to the point where you're like, okay, where did I hear that at? Is it true? Is it a rumor? And we had a Twitter space last night, and kind of the whole purpose of it was like, we do dig. We do look at people's social medias, but we typically do it quietly. And we do speculate, but we do it in order to find more data, right? So we come up with these theories that are fact-based so that we can go try to find more facts. Right. And I think that this has been very back and forth. So I appreciate you of all people to have kind of us, the sleuths. I'm happy to represent them, although maybe I'm not the best, but I think that we go very much back and forth, and it can be very frustrating for ones that do just want to help. And so I think you're a good example. Jennifer Coffendorfer is a great example of prior law enforcement who understand that we do just want to be helpful,
I want to say this too, and I appreciate that, but I want to add to the most important part is that law enforcement, and especially when I was active on the job, we really relied on the 1-800 tip line. We relied on people from the community to help us solve a lot of our crimes. Now, I don't have those percentages of what it was, but it was a lot. And I remember in the 90s when we had 2,200 homicides in the city of New York in 1991. I bring this up a lot, but it's important. We were going from murder to murder every other day. There was sometimes there was sometimes 2 working crime scenes in one shift, and we used to call the shifts the tours. In a tour of duty, sometimes we would work 2 homicides. And the bottom line is that with the manner of the way things were back then, there wasn't this internet, the superhighway, the internet. There wasn't smartphones. There wasn't a lot of these running around there, right? So we would have to rely on people calling the 800 tip line or calling a precinct phone. So law enforcement really needs the public. But what happens, Sleuthie, is that when the public takes it too far and goes and attacks these people that are thought of as potential subjects or witnesses, that's where that line gets crossed. And I'm not going to talk about or go into that here tonight. I think you have a good understanding of that. Listen, we're all human and we all get engulfed in these cases and our emotions run high. But people have to know that there's a time to throttle your emotions and not act on those things. If you're sleuthing and you guys are throwing ideas in a Twitter space or in a private Discord group, that's all well and good. But when that goes out into like Facebook and on Twitter publicly, and people are getting attacked and accused, that's when the problem comes into play. But that being said, most of the time, like you said, I mean, we sometimes, when we're working a case, there's so many different directives that are coming out from the executives that are running these cases that detectives don't always have the liberty to say, you know what, let me go over here. Let me just check this out. Let me do this. And that's where people who have extra time, might be retired, might just be somebody who can really manage their time well. Like I know you do. You juggle a lot of different things. I do the same thing. But at the end of the day, these cases get solved a lot of times by tips from people who put the pieces of the puzzle together behind the scenes. I'm going to show your timeline, if you don't mind. I want you to kind of take over and talk about this timeline and let the audience know how much work this is and how many hours you put into this thing. Because when I look at it, I say to myself, wow, there's not only the timeline and the dates and times, there's actually the sources. And you share this on your Twitter, right?
Yeah, I try to do them, and I started doing the Google Sheet. That way I could update it like in real time instead of sending out a screenshot and then it being old news by the time it's circulating around. But I'm really glad that we're going to talk about the timeline. There's like a little piece of the timeline that matches up with the clip that you played and kind of the routes out and the fact that there was a police presence and where in that area. So I think when you look at it, say in an Excel sheet where everything's kind of like boom, 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 it definitely looks clearer than when you're reading article after article after article and it's all kind of centralized in one spot.
Right.
Because there's really no time here.
But what I love about this is that not only can people look at this timeline, but they can go and click on some of the sources and there's clickable links. So
yeah, they should all be. Yeah. Because I'm big on, well, where did you hear that? Do you have a link? Where, did it come from Reddit? Did it come from, the news? And so I want to be able to see and check on things. And so I know that there are people that appreciate doing the same.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's super chatting and also everybody. Sleuthie, I don't know if you shared this on Twitter, but a lot of your friends are here and I see everybody mentioning you in the chat. Listen, we all love and know Sleuthie. She is definitely on top of her game with what she does. Janie Purcell Cox sent in a $10 super chat. She says, I wonder if you would be interested in having a panel of your experts talk about the JonBenet Ramsey case. Absolutely. It's almost Christmas time and it's still unsolved. That was something that I talked to Ed Wallace about, and he was very interested in going into that because so much forensics was fudged in that case. We could probably talk for days about it. So yes, absolutely. We will look into that, but I can't promise you anything on it as of timeline wise to, when we can get to it, but we definitely, that's in the hopper. That's for sure. All right. Sleuth. Where do you want me to start? Obviously you want me to start from the beginning.
I think, yeah, because there's a couple things about that weekend in general that I'd like to point out. So
I'm going to go full screen. Everybody can still hear you, obviously.
Okay. So one of the things, if we're starting at 11:11, which is when Kaylee bought her vehicle and decided that she was going to go. So it was a very last minute thing. She bought the car in the morning and then decided she was going to go. She was going to go to the sorority party that night. And we have pictures of her on her social media of her as someone's plus one for this party. So like we know that they went. But what I wanted to point out was the fact that this was a veterans weekend. So we were looking at different things that were going on that weekend. There was like a lumberjack something or other, like a competition. There was that, but something that struck me was that this entire weekend was a veterans weekend. So they started with this Friday night. They had a dinner for veterans.
Okay.
Then Saturday, they had, I don't know how important the Venmo transactions are. The one is important to me just because of the timing of it, but there was movement that day. Like we have proof of them being well, getting coffee, things like that. So
Right. And this is important if you're following this minute by minute, second by second. But these back and forth Venmos obviously are very, very important to the investigators, the lead investigator in this case. This is, and I'm going to tell you this through experience. This is not exactly how we do it, but this is very close, because you need the chronological timeline of everything that happened. It actually goes back to potentially a month before some of these crimes happen. And each case is different. Sometimes it requires going back even further when you are looking for a perpetrator. Let's just say, for example, and I'm not saying that this is the case here, but if you have someone who has been stalking you for, and I use that word because that's something that's just been recently talked about, right? With the vape shop guy and so forth. If someone is stalking one or more of these young ladies, you need to look back as far as you need to go. And that could be a year. That could be 2 years. So that's why so much time gets taken up when you're looking into these cases, because you got to look at everything with a microscope. So the Veterans Appreciation Dinner, the party, the formal party, the night of the 11th, right?
and and I'll be honest, like I have a separate spreadsheet. It can get to be a lot for people, especially when there's so much going on already. If I go back 2 weeks in this timesheet, if you think about it, the majority of this information is just 2 days.
Right.
So it's like, if I go back 2 weeks, it's overwhelming for people. A lot of people just want to see the night of and the morning of. But I was speaking with someone like active in working this case, and that is something they were interested in, was what about the entire weekend? What about the week before? Did anything strange happen the whole week before? So it is important. And with this, like I said, you're going to hit a point of time where you're like, how did everybody miss each other? Like, it puts into perspective how everyone missed each other by seemingly seconds.
Yes, absolutely. And Josh is trying to work me with pressing F11. Ryan, you can press F11. Okay.
What is that going to do?
I'm going to do it because he wanted me to get rid of the header. I know where Josh, I know my producer so well. He wanted the header to get away for safety reasons. But anyways, I want to make sure that the chat can see this. And Sleuthie, I don't like to ever boss a woman around because I'm married 31 years. But is there any way that you could back up just a little bit from your camera so we could see you fully?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Just not far. That's good right there.
And also, you can zoom in. They don't have to see the sources. I mean, they're there.
All right, let me look at your solo. Okay, yeah, because it's part of your. Yeah, you're good right there. You're good.
I feel like
I want you to be comfortable. So I want you to be comfortable.
I'm comfortable. I just want to be able to see.
Okay. All right. So let's. Yeah. If you can't see, then get closer. Because I want you to be able to read what we're doing. And for those of you in the chat, let me know if someone said go across the room. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, that's another guy trying to cause trouble. You see how guys try to gang up on other guys? He says, go across the room.
If I go across the room, yeah.
Yeah, you won't be able to see anything. All right. So I want everybody to be able to see this. If they can't, then I'll take me and you off and then I'll go full screen like this. If this is better.
Just zoom, just go to 100% and make it 150% and then put us on the side.
Sounds like a plan. Hold on.
Or 100.
Yeah.
Do 100. Yeah, that or 125.
That's $1.50. Let's see what $1.25 does. I think that's good.
Yeah.
125, because we really want to see the main parts. And then when you want me to click on a source to play a source, I'll just scroll over like that. So let's see what we look like when we add ourselves back. Shit. All right, I gotta do $1.50. Fungool.
I mean,
all right.
That looks okay. I mean, really, you can get rid of the date too, because I mean, we know when it happened, but
I don't want to screw anything up. If I start touching stuff, it's going to go, things are going to go away. But the dates are good. The dates are good for people because some people want to see it. All right, let's move along because we only got an hour.
Okay.
Somebody wants to know what your field of expertise is. Okay, I'll let her. You want to take that?
In my real life, like in my everyday life?
It's up to you. That's personal. You don't have to share that if you don't want to, but it's up to you.
I mean, in my everyday life, I work in the medical field. I'm a scribe in neurosurgery, but when I'm here, I don't know that I have an expertise. I'm good at, I guess, like crowdsourcing. I don't know, but I don't do anything by myself. I like to put this information out there and have everybody talk at me,
Right. And I will say this. Again, I in the beginning of this video, I said that tonight was going to be an opportunity to have somebody come on who is not from the law enforcement field, because listen, our community is not based of just a bunch of us, me and Ed Wallace, and retired law enforcement. It is majority is of regular folks, just like Sleuthie and everybody else that's here. Now, there are a ton of retired corrections and all the different trades, nurses, doctors, lawyers. What I'm saying is that we are doing this together. This is a community. When we talk about community, this is important to do this because it bridges that gap of, like you said, Sleuthie, you look to and you trust Jennifer and myself. You also ask me, hey, could you take a look at this? Behind the scenes, we don't have public conversations about this. You talk to me sometimes and you talk to Jen a lot of times about some of this stuff. And I think it's important to have that bouncing stuff back and forth, like you said.
Yeah, and it's like a checks and balances, right? So sometimes we can get a little bit carried away with what is relevant and what's not relevant, what's important, what should be sent to law enforcement and what should not. So I kind of use you and Jennifer and some others as like a, do you think this is important? And I usually get follow-up questions. So it's never just go ahead and send it to the tip line. It's let me explain to you exactly how you need to send it through, because they need to know how you got from A to B to C to D to get us here.
Right.
So I think it's important they like to be sent stuff, but it also has to be logical and it has to be fact-based when it goes, and you guys tell me when I'm being ridiculous and
we
tell
do.
me when it should go.
I haven't had to say that to you much, but yeah, you're right. It's 100%.
When Jennifer talks at me in riddles, I know that it's probably, I should let it go.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So people are questioning already about paid with a note. What does that mean?
Okay. So those are Venmo. See, now they can't see it. And I saw someone ask about how could they be there at 10, but then not be there till 10:15. So the notes, those are all Venmo transactions. So those are the kids' last Venmo transactions. So the most important one really for me is later in the day, but this was kind of like a proof of life thing for me. I put it there because I'm like, okay, they were all talking to each other that day. So it's not like unreasonable to think that they would be hanging out. And then there's like a final one, like Ethan's final one isn't until later while he's supposedly at this party. And I think it's going to be important. So it's just there. I can always remove stuff. I can't re-find it if it's like disappeared at some point, you know?
Right. Completely understand. All right. So you don't want me to have the dates in there? You want to?
No, I know when they are, because we're still on. Oh yeah, there's like 7 tabs down there. You don't even want to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to get involved.
No,
But
I just tapped them by mistake. I tapped it by mistake. I was trying to move the bar over and I hit the additional info. All right.
there's a whole sheet of like um debunked things,
I see it.
rumors,
I see it.
stuff like
I'm
that.
afraid to tap on some of this stuff. So
It's
I'm
it's
just kidding.
good.
I'm
It's
just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. So let's move on. So you have these Venmo transactions, and then there's the tailgate party, right? The
yes,
Vandals tailgate party and military appreciation Saturday, right?
yes. So it was an entire military weekend. So there were people coming. It was the final home game of the season, and there were people coming from UC Davis to come here for the tailgate party, for the football game, and for this military appreciation day.
And you have Facebook links that take you to, I guess
That's an extended interview with Olivia and Kaylee's mother.
Okay. Anything that you want me to play, I'll play it, and I'll just let you go from here. And I'm gonna, everyone's already saying Ron has happy fingers. He's always got to tell. We always got to tell him to stop. It
I
cracks
think
me
you got to get past this like initial
Okay,
you
let's
know.
do it.
So we get down to the final thing that I feel like is important is the final veteran thing is this play, and I never hear it talked about, this Cry Havoc play. It's like this one-man play, and it's very centered towards veterans, PTSD, things like that. And so in keeping that in mind, especially when we're throwing around things like K-bar knives, and we're attaching them to a specific type of person, which I don't like. My brother, you know, but so Ethan's last Venmo was at 8:40. For weeks, we were told that from 8 to 9, he was at a party. And then they needed help finding where he was from 9 to 1:45 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting that they were there and then paid someone and then left. I did not put, I updated in here, but they've only told like 2 news stations that they were there the entire night. But this is really good. Having it like this for me is really good because I can see what, let's say, police are saying and what the parents are saying. So the green ones are parents. So police are saying that they didn't get home till 1:45, Ethan and Xana, right? But Xana's dad from the very beginning said that the last time he ever spoke to his daughter, which he would know when he last spoke to his child after, you know, when something like this happened, was midnight, and she was staying at home with her boyfriend.
Okay.
So it's there to look at so that you can see, like, as far as opportunities of when the house was empty. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yep. I think that's great that you put that in there. And somebody said in the chat, are we sleuthing or are we going on based off of what the police narrative and what police are putting out? No, this is the timeline according to put together from public records, right? This is there's not a lot of speculation in this timeline. You're just giving narrative to what your thought process is behind this timeline. And you know what? I'm not here to question it because this is a chronological order of what she put together on her own with help also obviously from other people, right? This isn't just all you, Sleuthie, right?
Yeah, and people know that when they find something that I don't have, that I want it, and I put it on here. But the reason I'm probably over explaining it is because people were asking particular things, like at 10 o'clock, police say that was when Kaylee and Madison left the house and were at the club, right?
Yeah.
But her sister, who was going through her phone, and I'm inclined to believe the times that were given, because 3 weeks after this all happened, police corrected the time they got home to what the sister had been saying all along. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's only a difference of 15 minutes, but I don't know if 15 minutes is important.
I think all time is very important as long as it is something that could be corroborated. And all of the electronic evidence, and Ed and I talk about this all the time, and I don't want to go into our stuff on your time here, but we believe that this case is going to be solved through science, and science includes electronic science, computer science, technology, and so forth. So people can speculate all they want about these Venmo transactions and so forth, but I think that they are important to put the pieces of the puzzle together to get to the end result of what happened. And for me to have have four young adults return home at the exact same time, and that's what the police are putting out. That to me it just didn't jive to me that
Right.
they would, all of them, unless they were communicating and we don't know about it, and they were texting each other. You know how many open text messages young adults have, young kids. Sometimes I can, my son is at the table before he's running out. He puts his phone down and I see 5 different things pop up. Boom, this one, this one, this one. And it's just, they could have been communicating like, hey, we're on our way home. Let's all meet. Let's hang out or whatever. We don't have access to this.
Right.
So it could make us all speculate and go into different areas. But the bottom line is the only people who really need to put this together is the arresting officer. The arresting detective needs to have this or something similar to this all put together. Like we call it having our ducks in order. You have the ducks in order are important. So let's move along. We're at 10 o'clock. Kaylee and Madison are at the corner club located at 202 North Main Street. And there's cameras, from what I heard from the ex-college student Grant that I had on the channel. He said that place is cameraed up everywhere. There's cameras everywhere on the inside of that place, which is a good thing. And the owner of that establishment is very community oriented and handed over all of the video to police.
Good. I know that they said they didn't want to talk about it because they had respect for, the victims and then also the police. But I figured they were doing that. I'm glad they are overly secure.
Yeah, that footage inside that club, for as far as that DVR goes back, and I'm hoping that he didn't chintz out and get a cheap DVR, but most of them do about a month. If you get one for about $300-400, you can get one that, like the one I have here in my house. My DVR records a month, 30 days. I'm looking into getting one that does 6 months. But most businesses 30 days. That's that's pretty standard. All right, Sleuthie, I'll let you go because I'm starting to talk too much.
No, you're fine. I'm thinking, and when you said about this being solved by science, and I think it will as well, but I think with this particular situation and house, and the fact that there are so many people in that house, something that would be pertinent to helping them, for example, exclude fingerprints or DNA and stuff, is if, let's say before people's social media starts shutting down, you happen to get a picture of 3 people that were inside the house Friday night. It would explain why their DNA was there, so it's little things like that. I know that was something in particular was they were needing to know, because I guess I don't want to go too far into this, but it as far as people being forthcoming about having been there in the days leading up to it, because people were scared, obviously.
Right.
But so police said, and I agreed with you, I was like, how did 2 girls go out separately and both end up home at 1, and then 4 other people end up at home at the same exact time? That makes no sense. But unless they drove each other. So these police officers here at 10:04, they do like a it's interesting because I found a invite to this Sigma Chi party. and it was set to be from 9:30 to 2. And it seems as though this alcohol patrol was the exact time, and they were in the exact area of this party. So at 10:04, the police are in the area. They already stopped somebody. Don't know how important she is, but just to physically show where they were at near the house.
The good news about all the police stops is obviously they've been releasing some, and I have a 44-minute release extended version that Law and Crime Network uploaded.
Mhm.
But there's a certain parts of maybe police body cam footage, and there might be more that we don't know about that they may hold back. So there could be more of this. There could be what they have is what they're putting out. But that's just extra information. And I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure that you have. The kids that are running in the background, in the foreground of of one of the body cam angles. The FBI and the forensic team at Quantico, or assisted by Quantico, will use their all of the software and all the tools that they have to enhance those videos, to lighten it up, and to get to see as good as they possibly can. It's amazing what they can do with this stuff, because I worked in the computer crime squad for a short period of time, and I heard about stories as well of what they do and what they can do, and what our technical response unit, the TARU unit in the New York City Police Department, is unbelievable what they can do with technology. So a lot of the stuff that they have and that they obtain, they'll enhance the out of it. So so I'm trying to keep it a family show. So
Yeah, I could tell. They that's what they said they were doing, was that they could pull it like pixel by pixel. They can fix each pixel to make something totally clear. But that's why I think this is important, because I'm telling you, there's a period of time. So we already know they go out. We already know they go to the food truck. We already know they come back. I think now people are realizing that the group of 3 that showed up there was a group of 3 prior to getting to the food truck. They went from point A to the food truck together.
Right. And we played that video here extensively. I had Josh, the producer, come in and take that 12 minutes and enhance it. He actually ran it through a program and enhanced it so it was clearer. And I uploaded that, and I played it in its entirety. I'll do it again another time, but we're already into 45 minutes here. So I want to get through this.
So they do that. They're seen at the food truck, and then they leave.
Right. And they get into a car, as we know. They talked first about an Uber, but we've come to find out it was by a personal private party. And I talked to somebody, obviously Grant was on our channel. He is from the Greek life, and he talked to me about how they have this system of where they can make a phone call and get someone to come and pick them up. I mean, my kids used to do it too. They'd go to a local bar, and then there would be a designated driver that wasn't with them, that would be home and was on standby, and would get the call and go out and pick them up. So it's a common system that's used. We don't know for sure what was utilized, but police definitely know. I'll tell you that right now by the way they're speaking. They know exactly who picked the girls up and brought them home.
Well, they said that the driver that drove them wasn't believed to be involved. So whether it's an Uber or it's a sober, it's funny because in the invitation to the Sigma Chi party, they call them sober bros, right, that were supposed to be walking around the party, making sure. There were a couple other things, but I won't get into that because that's not what we're talking about now with bracelets and such. But these particulars of when Kaylee called for a ride, all that stuff come from her sister, who had gone through her device. Well, not her physical device, but her stuff.
Yeah. And you have that here. Per mom and sister, Kaylee called for an Uber, but that's not what the police are saying. So who are we to believe here? I don't see what the upside is for the sister to say it was an Uber when it really wasn't, unless she misspoke and assumed it was an Uber.
I would give her the benefit of that doubt, but every interview she was in, she said, I know it was an Uber. My sister called an Uber. And she said it
Right.
over and over again. So I won't play like semantics. It got brought to my attention that maybe Uber as a business was like, listen, we have college kids around here. We need to, like, they need to feel safe to call us for rides. Like, we can't have our name be put out there that way.
Uh,
But I have them both in there just because her timeline is more specific and I prefer that. I don't want everyone getting home at 1:45. So, long story short, Ethan and Xana get home at 1:45. I don't know how they confirm that, but that's what the police are saying. And
could be by phone pings, Sleuthie. It could be that they, have them on the tower dump
it
at that
should.
location by GPS. iPhones and Android. Yeah. So
Yeah, it definitely should. It's just, like I said, it was weird that they finally did change. I mean, 11 minutes is 11 minutes, and Kaylee and Maddie got home 11 minutes later.
Okay.
Than what we were originally thinking. So they get home, and I saw someone ask what EXPN was. That it was like supposed to be ESPN. It was a sports themed party they were having at Sigma Chi. That was the theme of the party. So what's interesting, so at 2:00, there was an interview that was done by this neighbor and his girlfriend. And he said that at 2:00 he went to bed. It was just like every other neighbor says, it wasn't as loud as it always was. It was very, very quiet in the neighborhood. He didn't hear anything. People weren't walking around talking really loudly. He went to bed at about 2. At 2:26, between 2:26 and 2:52, 10 total calls go through to Kaylee's ex-boyfriend from both Kaylee and Maddie's phone. I think Maddie makes 3 calls. Kaylee makes the other 7. In between that time, so at 2:50, and the reason I know this is because I got the police report. So I know that they observed these kids from 2:50 until they stopped them at 3:00, which is the body cam footage that everyone sees.
Right.
So at that time, at 2:50, those 2 police officers are sitting in their unmarked vehicle in plain clothes, less than 250 feet from the front door of the house. They're observing these 3 boys, and decide to stop them. The entire call from start to finish, from the approach to them in the car, closing it out before they pull off, because then they have another call at 3:38 I haven't put in yet, is 3:32. So we're halfway through the time of death at this point, right? So if someone was coming in or out, they're running out of time, and they would have had to go in and do it right away if they were going to go Taylor Ave, which is what Newsnation had up in that clip, was Taylor Ave.
Correct.
So then we don't have anything until later in the afternoon, when the 2 surviving roommates wake up and they think that one of the second floor victims was unconscious. So they called their friends to come help them. They didn't pass out. I think police were very clear here, where they're not in others. They thought that someone on the second floor, so Ethan or Xana, was unconscious, and they called friends. Everybody came over. That same neighbor that went to bed at 2 left for work at 11:45. He saw nobody outside. If you wanted, you could click on that interview, but it's not that important. I just think a lot of people probably haven't heard it. But he leaves for work at 11:45. There's nobody outside screaming or running around, or no kind of commotion at the house, and he lives right beside it.
I'm gonna get that link up as you're talking.
Okay. And then at 11:58 is when 911 was called, and we're told that multiple people talked to 911. Officers are really only like right down the road, so they were there very quickly, and that's the end of that. I mean, it was really it's really a very tight time. And when I get to thinking about ways that people could have went, I sent you that map, and I'm like, you know, unless they went this one particular way, which would mean that they're from there and they know where the cameras are, because there's a ton of cameras, and they purposely avoided those cameras and did go through the back.
Right.
They would have had to at some point been on those officers that were there. Like, there has to be something on camera footage somewhere.
I agree. I had to close everything out. Sleuthie, I just want to be I want to be able to play this link. So let me just do this while you're still talking. Hold on a second. Yeah, there's got to be footage somewhere, and I'm hoping that they have that in their pocket and they're just holding on to it. And you know, there's a lot that they're not going to release to the general public. That's for sure.
I hope so. I think so. I hope so, but I feel like, again, if it's organized and they're listening, right? Because they immediately come out with these videos where they're like, stop talking about us. We gathered footage from day one. You know what I mean? They're watching what we're saying. So I think making sure we're putting things out there that will be helpful might help them kind of come to a conclusion a little bit faster.
Right.
Did you see the
Is this it? Neighbors of slain Idaho college student speaks with Fox.
Yeah, there's a guy and a girl.
Yes. Yeah.
You might have to fast forward some. Yeah.
I got it. Let me just play that. I remember this video.
Nobody ever talked about these two. And I was like, he was awake. Like, and then he got up and he left for work, and he was like right there when go ahead.
All right, here we go.
Honestly, you know, you wake up in that morning, you know, on Sunday, and you just go to work and you don't really think anything of it. You know, I was at work and the only thing I heard about was like the unconscious person. And then, you know, I didn't realize it had more severity to it till I got home and I could hear the clicking of the cameras.
It's a really small town feel, lots of hills, but it seems like a really close-knit community. All of my professors and stuff that are from here, they've seemed like they've been here for a decade or longer, and they seem to know just about everybody. So I would say it's a fairly small community, even though there's roughly 20 to 25,000 people here. The officer that came by door to door, he asked if we had any sort of surveillance or if we knew about any other cameras or anything in the area. Sadly, this is an apartment building, and I'm assuming it's relatively old, so there was nothing. Luckily, the apartment sent out an email a couple days ago saying they're adding new lights, which there is a new light up there. They're going to work on installing cameras just so that if anything like this were to happen again, there's a better chance of getting footage of who did it.
It's just nerve-wracking mostly, and stressful because she's always home alone because I work in the evenings and stuff. And just surreal, almost like something out of a TV show, not something that I would expect to be experiencing so close to home.
It seems like everyone that has been here for a while is just devastated by it. The last murder here was 2015, so 7 years ago. And so it's not something that happens frequently. It's not like we're in a big city where it's an everyday occurrence. So something like this is just sort of rare, doesn't happen often, so people aren't used to it. It's really odd because, I don't know, I've never been this close to any sort of other like crime scene before, I guess, other than like a drug bust, like walking by a house and seeing cops with like a drug bust. But that's the closest I've ever been to a crime scene. So especially one of this magnitude where I could throw a baseball from my front door to the house, it's just odd.
I mean, for my sister, she lives pretty much across the way. She lives in Alpha Gamma Delta. And for me, she walks to my apartment almost every day. And so the concern for me is just her walking by herself in the dark a lot now because, you know, in the summer, you know, it's daytime. It's not as scary. But in the dark now, for me, my concern is I just don't let her walk here by herself unless it's during the daytime, and I'll go pick her up now because I don't like her walking by herself.
Oh, I went to bed early that night.
Yeah.
And then I woke up to a bunch of normal. And then a couple hours later, we got a message and there was a bunch of police here. And then that was the end of normalcy for the past week or so here. Though the day that the police were called here, about an hour or two after that, an officer came by and just went door to door along here, just asking if anybody had seen or heard anything. That's the only contact I've had with officers so far.
And then I had left for work like around 11:45, and I never saw or heard anything. The night before, I was up to like 2 and never heard anything at all, anything out of the ordinary. Like it's just been crazy with just how quiet it's been.
Yeah.
Because we're used to having like some sort of music, hearing music when we
They
come
always
home
had
from
little
work.
gatherings, so they always had music going. So, you know, for us, we never assumed anything different.
Yeah.
Because there's
So there's a lot of things with this interview, and again, this was that guy Jeremy who went to the police department and gave his DNA to get himself cleared. I kind of felt bad for the guy because he was, being accused of being the murderer up and down. He hasn't been in the spotlight, hasn't done any more interviews, but he did go to the police station and requested a swab, and that was a good thing that he did that. But I felt like he was pressured into doing it anyways. But
And also, I'll be honest, and him as like a law student, like should know that's like not a like I would I'm not volunteering my DNA. Nerdy jokes around about sending his DNA into like 23andMe, and it's like a nightmare of mine. I'm like, what's stopping like some crazy person from like getting a hold of my DNA? Like, but
well, when you're thrust into a position where people are accusing you of being murderer of 4 people, then he probably just was kind of forced into doing that. So
and I was confused too because so we have three neighbors there, and my ears perked up to several things, but like I didn't even notice who he really was. So I think it gets out of control like really quickly, and sometimes it's like hard to reel back. I do want to say, because you have a lot of people that watch, and I said it on my Twitter space, but there wasn't like a whole lot of people there. I feel really bad for the people that are in Moscow. Like I see them saying things. I see them begging to be like left alone, that they feel like people aren't treating them like people. And I feel terrible, and I feel like I want to tell them, like, I know that it's invasive. Like, I know that it's invasive. I know thinking about that maybe somebody's like looking at, your social media is like creepy as heck, but like there are people that really do want to help, and I understand like where this is coming from, because what I have seen has really made me, I feel so bad for these people. And not in the sense that I know like any more than anybody, and we don't know what happened, but the fact of the matter is that like people are being we're not able to reel anything in because we're not like listening to legitimate, like if I say that's not true and I'm going to show you exactly why, like we need to take that in. We need to be like, okay, yeah, you're right, that doesn't make any sense, and like move on, as opposed to getting stuck on these people, because these kids were slaughtered, right? And so the people that live around them, I can't even imagine just the anxiety that would come from knowing that happened, and what made them targeted, like being at home, like, and then so to add on top of that, they have these crazy people that are like commenting on stuff all the time. It would throw people into like a mental breakdown. So
yeah.
I want them to know that there like are good sleuths that like want to help you, and we're only involved because we feel terrible, and this is a tragedy, and any way that we can help in whatever way we can from wherever we are, which is most of us are very far away from you.
Right.
We want to help where we can, and we are sorry for what is going on, because it really it gives us a bad name, and we just want to help you.
It's the same kind of concept, Sleuthie, with police. One bad apple could ruin it for a whole group. It's the same situation here. People are afraid to talk to anybody other than police or state investigators.
Not everything is for groups of 90,000. Like not everything needs to be said. I mean, I think
I agree.
It takes a level of control, self-control. Like, is this, I'm going to say this, but once I say it, it's out there, right?
Yeah. You can't take it back.
No.
Especially when it's on the internet. So At 11:45, 11:58, the call comes in from the residents of one of the surviving roommates, from one of the surviving roommates' cell phone requesting aid for an unconscious person. Now, there's, again, unconfirmed by the police how this thing went down, and there's a whole version of this that allegedly there was one of the victims seen out in an area. I'm not going to get into it. We don't know for sure, so I'm going to skip this part.
I do want to clarify that, because we did clarify, because it got, so back when the coroner was talking to people before she likely got in trouble for talking to people, she did an interview with Newsnation. I linked it in the spreadsheet, and the question that she was asked was, she wouldn't answer any other questions. So Ashley Banfield said, were they found in beds? And Kathy Mabbitt said yes. And that was the end of that. I know that there's another report that's out that says that Kathy said that prior reports about them being killed in their beds is inaccurate. And I'm hoping that, like, saying it verbally is going to maybe get it through better than like typing it in. So that would be inaccurate. She's not saying they were killed in their beds. She's saying that she's the coroner. No one can move those bodies or touch them in any way until she physically gets there. So when she got there at 5 or 5:30 that evening, they were in beds, not their beds, not different beds. They were just in beds. That's where she observed them to be. So this whole, like, you know, on the floor, out in the living room, you know, all this other stuff, like all of that is just, it's just simply not what she said. And she's the only other person that was there that saw.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that. But again, you know, when you look at what the Moscow Police Department, they're being real tight-lipped, obviously now, because they have to for the integrity of the case. But you know, we don't see a lot of confirmation on some of the things that you just spoke about from them, right? It's
the only thing we have from them is that they were on the 2 different floors.
Right. It's coming from news reports. And that's the thing, is like we always say as investigators, the news can be our best friend and our worst enemy. And when we say our worst enemy, it's either A, they put out information that we don't want them to put out, that the bad guy could, you know, only the bad guy and us could know about it, or B, they put out misinformation. And that's a problem. It's a problem with some of these cases. And I'm not saying that's the case here, but I'm just giving a little bit of background to that.
No, there was somebody there was another, maybe it was that lawyer. I was watching a video that the lawyer that Pete, he has a show.
Oh yeah.
Your lawyer.
Yeah, the lawyer, you know. Yeah.
Yes. And he was like, so we have to have relationships with the media that are good, because there are times where we need to put information out
and use them.
And you develop these relationships, but you know, and I've talked to a previous reporter that would confirm that, like, they're told some things that are additional from that the public don't know, that they're trusted not to put out yet. So in terms of what you just said, you know, them being beneficial, they could also be, because if somebody has a bad day and they're like, I'm going to put it out there because I want to be the first one to do it. And they were like, this was in confidence kind of thing. But I like to put links to things that are videos. I want to see Kathy Mabbitt's face tell me whatever it is that they're writing in this article. Right. So it still may be messed up, but at least I'm physically watching it coming out of her mouth, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's no better way to see it or hear it is to see it through a video and hear it for yourself. Did you said you put a link to that in here?
To which?
To her?
To the lawyer. Oh, to Kathy?
Yeah.
Go to additional info, the pink sheet.
Yep.
Right there, the Newsnation one. Go down. Yep.
Right here?
Go up.
Oh, okay.
Right, I think that's it. Yeah, that should be the one. It's only like a 2-minute thing. She wouldn't really answer any other questions, but that was one. She got cornered in. I also added to that. I know a lot of people like Jennifer Coffindoffer's always on the move, so she can't always listen to a video. So I usually transcribe like the press conferences and whatnot, so you can read it kind of whenever you want. And I think that makes you pick up on a couple things that maybe you didn't before.
Okay. Well, let's move on with the timeline, because I'll play that. I'll come back and play that towards the end. So we're up to the point of the police getting responding, right? Where are we? Where am I?
Yeah, they're right there.
The coroner arrives on the scene.
Yeah, she got there later, but they were, processing everything.
Right. And I think from what I read and listened to what the police said is they contacted the Idaho State Police immediately. We heard the captain, we heard the police chief say that we reached out to them because we knew that our resources within the Moscow Police Department were not capable of handling a scene of this magnitude. So that was a good thing that they did that. It was the first call that the captain said that they made. Was to
Yeah.
Idaho State Police.
Did you listen to his newest thing where he kind of was like, she said, what was that day like for you when you guys went? And he was explaining, and we had someone come on, because there is a lot being said about the police. And I think that some people are saying one thing and some people are saying the other. So
of course,
people might be concerned, but some are concerned because just all police officers are just incompetent. And then some are concerned because it's like, okay, this is a safe place and they've not had any murders. And coming out of the chief's mouth, he was like, we had young police officers. This was the first ever crime scene they've ever walked in on, ever.
Yeah,
and it was this. And so you got to give like a little bit of like, imagine, you can read about it, you can study it when you're, preparing and doing whatever. I don't know what cops do, but, pretend like, walkthroughs, like to pretend, like that's one thing, but to see real humans in that, in that state, so it is good that, and I'm sure that not everyone was able to, so I'm glad they did. And they also did call FBI right away too. From what I understand,
I'm gonna play this interview. It was only 1:28 with wait
Kathy.
a minute. Is that with the police chief? No. I wanted to play the Moscow police chief, but I thought it was the captain who talked about
it's the guy with the squeakier voice and the stubble.
Yeah, it's here.
Linear.
It says he reflects on the day.
Yes.
I'm gonna play this. Let's give a little just to get a little break in here. Hold on, share screen. There we go.
This is what happened. This, if anybody wondered what a sleuth actually was with our brains, this is what it is.
It's exhausting.
It is. It's almost like not normal for your brain to be thinking all these things at one time.
All right, here we go.
About the first time you heard about what happened, how did you react? What were your first steps as an investigator?
Yeah, well, it was hard. I got called at home. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and it took me a second. I really had to think about what I had just heard. 4 murders in Moscow, Idaho is so out of character. And at the time, they were fairly certain it was college students, and it was near the campus, and that area is kind of a campus community. So once I got over the initial shock, I knew that I was coming to the station. So I drove in, and everybody just kind of fell into a role. That was all hands on deck moment. Sunday afternoon, it became fairly apparent when I got to the scene that we were going to need resources outside of just what the Moscow Police Department could provide. And we have a very, very good working relationship with the Idaho State Police. We knew what their capabilities were, and so that was the first call that we made to have their investigative team come up and help us process the scene. The scene wasn't chaos, the neighborhood, but it was very, very somber. Like I said, that is a community of college students that live over there. Many of them, through word of mouth, knew what had happened. They were standing outside. There was a lot of crying. There were friends trying to find out who exactly was inside the house. Some family members that arrived on scene. It was incredibly hard for the community, but it was also really, really hard on our officers, some of whom were very young, and that was the first real major crime scene that they had encountered. So emotionally, it was a very, very draining day. But resources came, and then the first about 3 days was just an adjustment, trying to get resources in place and then get a system that worked for everybody. The FBI got involved almost immediately. And the FBI, the Idaho State Police, and the Moscow Police Department all have a little bit different way of doing things. And that's okay, but when you're working collectively, you have to put a system in place that starts information flowing and you can handle it in a logical manner. So fortunately, the FBI has some experience in those areas, and they were very, very good at helping us set up their virtual command post. And then once everything was in place, it became a very, very systematic method of processing the information that was coming in.
Can you sum up the last month in terms of the investigation?
Yeah, a lot of emotional highs and lows, but an incredible amount of teamwork. The general public doesn't have any idea the scope of this investigation, the number of people that are involved, not just here in Moscow, but investigative and interview teams in the northern part of Idaho, the southern part of Idaho, the eastern part of Idaho, resources from the Salt Lake City FBI office, the Coeur d'Alene FBI office, analysts back in Virginia, and the number of people that have flown here or driven here from great distances to just lend their specialty to this investigation. We have the FBI's command post in our parking lot, and we've hooked them up to Wi-Fi, and everything that they would normally do down in Salt Lake City, they're doing right here in our parking lot. So the team effort has been amazing. It's been overwhelming at times, but there are so many people with so much expertise. Somebody always steps up and takes the role that needs to be filled.
What role has speculation, rumors, and the conversations on social media play in the investigation?
Did anybody catch him give a sigh when she asked him that? He went,
Yeah,
you caught that, right?
I did.
Let's hear what he has to say about this, and then we won't play it all the way to the end.
I love something else that he said, so remind me.
Okay.
Yeah, that has been by far the most frustrating part of this. We've always closely guarded the information that we've discovered at the scene and our investigative information, because we want to protect the integrity of this investigation. And just look at social media and the rumors that fly out there. A small piece of information that has speculation added to it just takes its own life on the internet and starts rumors. And then we find ourselves not only tracking those rumors down and trying to quell them, but also we see our tips that come in are geared more toward the rumor, not the facts that have been put out. And the really unfortunate part of it is the effect that it's had on the victims' families, on the college students and friends of the victims, some of whom have had death threats and constant harassment by various media outlets. So it's been devastating in some ways. In many ways, it just re-victimizes folks who have already suffered this terrible trauma.
I talk about this often on my live streams, re-victimizing the victims, and that's a problem, you know. Sleuthie, you said you wanted me to remind you about something he said. Did he say it already?
Yeah, he did. But I also want to comment on what he said about the rumors and stuff. And like, he's not wrong. We talked about that, like I said, on the Twitter space yesterday about, you know, I don't necessarily, I could see how viable tips that get a little bit of speculation, rumor in them that could just destroy the tip. And then like, we're sending that in and it's not legitimate, but it needs to be looked into anyway. I could see how that would harm an investigation. But in listening to him again, I think that a large portion of what the issue is with that is what he said about neighbors, friends, family members. I know I heard a family member repeat something that was being said on Facebook. So like, and it wasn't even true. And it was very frustrating. about one of the people. And what it does is it gets them feeling not confident in what's going on. And we already see what happens with that, right? Now they have a criminal defense attorney that's talking for them. They've put out information in order to get someone to speak to them, and it can really spiral out of control. But this is a tiny place that's used to writing tickets for underage drinking.
Right.
I mean, so the media and people wanting to keep this out there in order to generate more tips is not used to this. And this is extreme. Like I said, this case, I've been really testy, super testy. I almost didn't have, I had to be talked into having a Twitter space last night for like 40 minutes because I just was like, I'm tired of telling people that something's not true, you know, to get us all back in the same page, but it's beneficial, and we cleared a couple things up. And I think that if anything, allowing it to continue and watching it and letting it continue is people are going to stove up a little bit more, and people that might have information aren't going to come forward, you know?
Yeah, I just want everybody to know, absolutely, I agree with you there. I want everybody to know that Sleuthie's Twitter will be linked in the description here, and if the mods can drop her YouTube and her Twitter, I want everyone to follow her on Twitter, obviously. If you're not following her, I think most of the people that are here are following her. She, you know, again, she does the best that she can on her own time. This is all done on her own time. To compile an accurate, up to the minute, up to the date, up to the minute timeline. And that takes a lot of effort. She does this just because she doesn't.
And a lot of people, Ron, I don't think I don't think most people understand until they come and they, let's say, go into a space and they see, 10 people just firing off ideas and sharing pieces of real information that they found, and putting the timelines together. It's really a great team effort and of people that are focused on actually knowing what's actually going on and helping. And I didn't realize that there were so many people that were so outside of themselves that they just want to help,
Yeah, absolutely. And there's thousands of people that are outside the country that even want to help. From the UK, you have people from Australia and
Yes.
all over the globe that are chiming in and trying to figure out some of the pieces of the puzzle. But again, it takes one or two bad apples to spoil it for a good group of people, and that's what happens here. And it's not, and Sleuthie, it's not just this case, it's every case. And you are who better to know this, because you follow all of these cases. So you know this to be true. It happens in all of these cases, but this one is amplified because it's a quadruple murder. It's 4 people.
Yeah, it's hurtful to me. Like I said, I've been very in a bad mood because I'm very upset for the police department, because I'm like, there are so many people like at your disposal. Social media can do a lot of good, and it can do a lot of bad, but I want to be able to show them the good. I want to be able to help. And then I feel terrible for all of the neighbors and stuff. I saw something today and I was like, oh no. And someone was like, I have to change my name now. And I'm like, this is not normal.
It's not right. It's not normal. So it is what it is. So again, let me just play this little piece. This is Brian Enton, and he's talking to the vape guy. I want to just play this. Yeah, should I? No,
I think that you should, but I do want to say one thing is that I know there was like one clip, an angry clip, where dad said, did she ever mention a stalker, and he was like, yes. And that was it. Whereas like the sisters,
the father's not on this one. So I think it's just him talking to the
vape guy.
Yeah. He says that in the clip.
He doesn't, but Brian then after the show, he does like lives on Twitter, and he says certain things to clarify if it wasn't very clear in the show.
Right.
And he just wanted to be clear that like the family doesn't think that there was a stalker.
Right.
This could be one of those fruit of the forbidden, tree things where a month has gone by.
Yeah, yeah. I may not play it then. I wasn't aware of that, so that's good that
Yeah.
you told me about that. Let me just say hello to a couple people in the chat. Corinne is here. Delana is here. Jenna from Scotland. She's chiming in. She says, "I'm from Scotland, and I keep checking on this case."
Yeah.
Uh,
And they're awake when we're asleep.
yeah,
So most of like my Australia people, they're
yeah.
I wake up in the morning with loads of stuff.
Nana just started following you on Twitter literally just now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa says, I loved your show until tonight. Okay, well, you can't make everybody happy, right? Sorry, Teresa. This is just a different angle. Again, we kind of go over everything true crime related from a police perspective. Tonight, this is a night for the sleuthing crew to come on in. And guess what? The timeline that she's compiled here is one of the most extensive and accurate that I've ever seen anywhere. And I've looked on Reddit, I've looked all around on social media and everywhere and anywhere that true crime is being discussed. And this one is the most impressive for me. And I'm not just saying that because you're here in front of me. I'm saying it because it's true.
We use you guys. Like, you're at any point in time, I guarantee you your chat is full of sleuths because we want to learn from you. That Lanier, he said it. That was the other piece that I wanted to mention when he said that, we don't always all think the same between the FBI and us and the state police, but we all get together and then we work together because everybody has something to offer if you're here because you just want to give instead of take.
Absolutely. And you know what? A lot of cases get solved in the police department in teams. Like, they call in some specialty units and people give ideas and we bang around these ideas. I've had cases that I've worked on that weren't my cases, where we just did a supplement to an enhancement of a case, and we've given ideas. My team and I have given ideas, and some of the ideas were used to solve the case. So it's happened. When you have too many people, they say too many cooks in the kitchen can spoil the broth or whatever. But I feel that, in a case that's so big like this, the more information you have, the better chance you are, or you will have, of coming across that one little piece that you're going to need to solve this puzzle. So
different perspectives and different thinking. You can't be surrounded by people that think exactly the same all of the time, or you're just going to look at the same stuff over and over.
Absolutely. All right. So let's try to get this. I don't know if we're going to have time, but let's, where did we leave off here?
No, we were at the coroner coming at 5:30. The rest of the stuff is just like particular, like, all of the press releases and like when they towed the cars away.
So we got it.
Yeah, we did all of like the night to the morning of. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So let me show you. Can I show your Twitter?
Sure.
All right. So here's a look at Sleuthie's Twitter. I'm going to go full screen with it. There she is. Boom. Let's go back. And here she has the pinned tweet, which is what the document that we just showed. Can anybody look at this, or do they need permission from you to access?
Anybody can look at it. I need to specify, though, those tabs. I think everybody misses them. There's like multiple sheets at the bottom, but anybody can do that. And any case that comes up, I'll usually pin it at the top.
Okay. Here is you shared the lawyer reaction.
I did.
Yeah, this is his YouTube. Okay. Yeah. So this is a great perspective. I encourage everyone to go over and check out.
That's that guy.
Yeah, Peter Dragos from the lawyer. He's great. I had him on my channel here. I love his channel. I think he does a great job of breaking stuff down from
me too.
From the lawyer's perspective, and you can't get a better guy there. And here she shares. Her Twitter is full of everything that you want to know about this story. So yeah, definitely go over and check out her Twitter. And you have a YouTube channel too, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it's just also Sleuthie Goosey. I kind of just go where everybody's talking. Not a big deal.
Do you go live on your channel?
I haven't for this, just because I've been so thrown into what it is that I've really not had any time to talk. But now that the information's kind of slowed down, I think clarifying a lot of things would be important. So we started with Twitter Space, which is recorded. You can click on it.
Right.
We had a lot of people in there, like news people, like Fox News, because that's how much they want to know what's going on here. And so it's
Did you have was Brian Enton in on
was Paige was there, Brian Enton was there. Jessica knows the name of the Fox guy that was there because she says he's really handsome. It makes you nervous, but otherwise the rest of us are all sleuths, just trying to like figure out exactly what the information is without the extra twist that everybody else kind of.
Now, is the replay for that Twitter Space available? Like, can someone go on and check it out?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go in, you can check out the replay of that Twitter Space. Is it on your timeline, or who hosted it?
Yeah, you saw it. It said like play recording. It's not like a visual thing. It's just it's a phone call.
All right, I'm going to play just a little bit of this body cam footage. A lot of people are asking for it, but let's say hello to everybody in the chat quickly.
Your chat's been funny and great. You can tell there's a lot of sleuths in here that appreciate you.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you guys. The engagement is just unbelievable. And I love when people leave comments down below in the comment section. Allie Snow says, question, are you all having another Twitter space soon? So people love these Twitter spaces.
I like it for kind of last minute because it's just really a phone call. So we can just all kind of get together real quick. Right. Probably.
It's like a big party line, right?
Since the other one went well, it depends on how well they go.
Okay. And you said you had to be talked into this one, huh?
I was getting very frustrated. I was scouring for information and I was arguing. I'm pretty level, but I eventually get to a point where I'm like, you got to listen because this keeps getting brought up and it's not fair, for people that need more information. These poor neighbors. But
well, when you have people that aren't listening to you, it gets frustrating because I know this as a content creator on YouTube here. If you're trying to get a message across and you just part of your audience is listening to it and everybody else is just going off on tangents, it gets frustrating and it's hard to hold those emotions back in because you want to be like shaking people. Hey, listen to me. This is not what you're talking about is not factual, but you could do that till you're blue in the face and some people just won't get it. It's human nature. So.
Yeah, it's like, do you guys want more information? Because like, if you want more information, we got to get past the rumors to get there, Right.
Let's acknowledge Gordon Jackson. She sends in a super chat and she says, thank you all so much for the exhausting efforts and amazing, insightful guests. It's so relieving to know I'm not bananas for thinking, believing, and finding info the way I do about this case.
Ron, a lot of the sleuths aren't posting on the Facebook pages and stuff. They're making Google Drives and clogging up their computers with a bunch of information. It's normal for some of us.
As they say in the Yiddish country, oy vey. That's all I got to say. Let's just play this and then we'll wrap it up because I know I held you for over an hour and a half here. Let's see what this is. Yes, it's the body cam.
3, 4, almost as though they're walking in single file out at night at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So I got to say something about Banfield here, and I hate to freaking do this, but I gotta. It's a college town. There's nothing unusual about this.
There was a party that just ended.
But it's a freaking Saturday night into Sunday morning. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, people are malingering and trying to get home and staggering around drunk. She's making it sound like this is something brand new. Like this never has happened before.
Well,
come on, now you're killing me here for crying out loud. I love you guys, but
I thought the same thing, but then I was like, maybe we're just talking about two different things. This body cam, so keeping in mind that this is less than 250 feet from the house, there's a pathway from this police car to the front door.
Right.
So if there's anything interesting about the fact that 4 heads were walking towards the house at this particular time, it's just that, what did they see?
Right.
Not
What
that
did
they were
they
up
hear?
to anything
What did they
suspicious.
see? What did they hear?
Right.
Were they in fact paying attention, or were they shit faced and they didn't even weren't even listening? Like most people at 3:45 or 3:20 in the morning are tunnel visioned and just want to eat their
Get
food and go
home.
to bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's play this again, and I'll have to hold on. I'm gonna have to give
Not
this.
to mention, Ron, they were walking past a cop car, and
Yeah.
so they were probably just.
They're like,
It took.
they're like, get me the fuck out of here! I don't want the cops to see me. I'll get a $400 ticket. Huh?
It's like think like walk straight, don't look over there, don't say anything, he's going to talk to you, you know. I'm sure that's really what it was.
Ashley, this is for you.
Oh, hell no.
All right, here we go.
4, almost as though they're walking in single file out at night at 3 o'clock in the morning, actually closer to 3:12 in the morning. And as you watch those 4 figures, remember, police say the murders happened between 3 and 4 in the morning. Did those people see something?
Yeah.
Who are they? Have police tracked them down, asked them any questions, ruled them out? And again, if they're ruled out, did they see something as they were on foot, walking just steps away from where the murders happened? We do not have the answers to this, any of it. But as usual, our senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, is live on the case. And tonight he is standing in that exact location, right where that body cam action took place. So Brian, for us looking at it on television, it's hard to get the exact perspective of where the officers were standing, what direction their body cams were pointing, and where those 4 mysterious figures were walking from and to, and how far away they were from the actual murder scene. So can you take me there and help us get a feel?
Yeah, it's very confusing when you're looking at the body camera video. So hopefully we can give you some perspective. This is Banfield. This is where the alcohol call came in. The young men were here in the field when the police first showed up. That is the Sigma Chi fraternity house right there. So the police walked those young men across the street. This is Taylor Avenue, right to this spot right here. I was able to identify it because of the fire extinguisher. And they were standing in this spot, the young men, and the body camera video was pointed this way. And it is over.
Hey, Sleuthie, I want to ask you, and this is great that Brian did this because this gives you
Yeah.
good perspective, and it's a fire hydrant, Brian, just so you know.
What did he say?
He's called it a fire extinguisher.
Oh, no, he didn't. Oh,
Yeah, he did.
I love him.
Hold on.
And they were standing in this spot, the young men, and the body camera video was pointed this way. And it is over my shoulder where you could see very faintly what looked like several people walking faster, almost running by in the background. And I want to walk you over, Ashley, and give you a little.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, wasn't that spot where, or was that a different spot where we saw officers pick up a black
Yes.
jacket and put it down? That's the spot right there, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to play the fire extinguisher piece. Hold on.
In the field when the police first showed up. That is the Sigma Chi fraternity house right there. So the police walked those young men across the street. This is Taylor Avenue.
There we go.
Right to this spot right here. I was able to identify it because of the fire extinguisher. And they were standing in this spot, the young men, and the body camera video was pointed this way. And it is over my shoulder where you could see very faintly what looked like several people walking faster, almost running by in the background. And I want to walk you over, Ashley, and give you a little more perspective. It was somewhere in this area right here. And we can tell because we analyzed these lights of this little apartment building. It was somewhere right in this area. There's another big apartment building here. The question you might be having is, how close is this to the house where the murders happened?
I measured
Noah's
it.
gonna point in that direction. Our producer is up there. She's gonna flash a flashlight, Ashley. You see that flashlight flashing right there?
That's the top of the steps.
That
Yeah.
is right in
Yeah, I
front
do.
of the house where the murders happened. So it's all very, very close.
So what we're effectively seeing is, like, if my eyes don't deceive me, about 200 yards away from where Mo is flashing the light at the murder
Yes.
scene,
Yeah, a little
those 4 figures were walking where you're standing. It's that close.
It's that close, and it appears, again, it's so hard to see it in that body camera video.
My question is why aren't they picking the garbage up? What is going on?
Ron, yes, I went back and I took screenshots of like the day the news broke, what the did I say I might have sent them to you, what the see, because they were supposed to that, so King Road, so this one around the corner, and then the one, like if he were to walk through that little alleyway, there's one that's kind of right in front of the house. There are 3 dumpsters, and we were told that they collected the trash from the dumpster. So but it looks the same as it did on like the 13th. So I don't know if they're maybe hoping that someone like throws something away and they'll go get it at some other point, or if just these kids generate that much trash when they're moving. But no one's been there. They've been on breaks. So
that's a huge pile, and I don't know why. There's something that's not right about that, but because
he said it's, like,
yes, that's a public health condition right there with all that garbage and stuff. But it could be students throwing out like I don't know.
Move out maybe. But I was glad when he did this, because even now watching it looks further than it really is. Like when I measured it and I realized that it was only 250 feet is nothing. I mean, I've hunted deer with a bow and arrow, like further than that. Like 250 feet is from there to there. And they were in the area for so long. It's just, I like their idea of someone coming from the back of the house. I don't see how it could possibly have happened from the front,
Yeah, I don't believe it's probable that it happened from the front.
There was too many people there.
Yeah.
There were police there. There were kids walking home from there. There's just way too much going on in the front of the house.
Right. Let's watch the rest of this because it's just a short piece. I just want to play it in its entirety. And I've asked Brian to come on with me tomorrow, but I didn't get.
I love him. Who else is gonna like go walk through the back of the house through the woods, like into somebody else's yard?
Yeah, he does a great job. So let's let the rest of this play. And then we'll be right back.
But when we zoom in, it does appear that the figures are walking / running from the direction of where the house is, where the murders happened. At first, I thought they were just walking down Taylor Avenue. But when I got out here and really looked at everything, it appears they might actually be coming somewhat from the direction of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then just point to what direction they're headed. From what I'm looking at you straight on, just point the direction they were headed.
Okay, let me show you again. So up there on the hill, that's where the flashlight is flashing. That is where the house is, where the murders happened. It appears they were coming from that direction, and that they were going this way, back towards Banfield, back towards the Sigma Chi house, where the police were.
And it's sometimes, I just want to make sure our audience is clear. It sure sounds like you're saying Banfield, like the name of this show, or my last name. It is BAND, as though it's a school band, and that is their field. It is the school band's field. So, but what I'm really curious is when you showed me Mo or Lauren flashing the light up at the murder scene, it looked like that's the walkway that you have shown us that leads down from the house. So is it feasible that those 4 people were coming down that walkway?
It's possible. And I can't tell for sure. It's impossible to know for sure. Were they coming from that direction? Were they sort of walking along Taylor Avenue and it just appeared they were walking that way? We don't know. I can tell you from being out here for weeks, especially when there were more students here, this is a very busy area. You've got the frat and sorority houses. You've got a ton of apartments right here. So, it doesn't mean that they're involved. I mean, and even at 3 a.m., I mean, there was the drunk kids in the field. There's all sorts of partiers walking around. I mean, the likelihood is these were just some college students walking around in this area. But what if...
I agree with that. I agree with that statement. And
Level-headed.
Way too much time and effort is being talked about this. Again, the police, if they felt that they needed to enhance their video to find out who those kids were, they would do it, but I don't think that it would warrant that much effort to do that, because this is a regular night. This is prior to everything getting reported. College life there, and I had Grant on with me, Sleuthie, just a couple of days ago, and he said this place is jumping on the weekends, during the week. People are out drinking, partying, loud music, loud noise, so forth. It's just how it goes. So
I do think that it would be beneficial to be looking at at the footage just in general from that patrol, but these 4 people in particular, I don't think is going to be
right.
I think
this
that's a
is
little too
this is
much.
indicative of what it's like there on a regular basis. The murderers, the murderer or murderers were not malingering around and hanging around and making noise and yelling and screaming. It's, I mean, you know, we have to use common sense here. So, yes, like you said, and like Brian said here, these might be people that you would want to ask, hey, let me, you know, I want to interview you. Did you hear anything? Did you hear any screams? Did you hear anybody? And that would be a reason why you'd want to grab those people in those kids in that video, just to ask them those questions. But the detectives that are assigned to this case, they are going to probably try to methodically go around and question everybody that lives in that general vicinity in walking distance within 2 square mile radius. They're going to want to interview and ask everybody when they finally come back, or if they don't come back, and they're going to go to them, or they get them on the phone, and they're going to talk to everybody. They're going to try to talk to everybody.
Yeah, that's actually a really large apartment complex, that the parking lot that they're in. It's actually the one where they took their last photo, like the last picture of all of them that's on Kaylee's Instagram was
Right.
at that apartment complex right in front of their house. So they have friends that live in that apartment complex. I think that even now, someone might be like, you know what, maybe I did walk past someone. But again, I think it's just so common here that everybody's just walking around, which is good. They're not driving.
Right.
I don't think it would be strange to pass someone on a road, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I agree. All right. 2 hours, almost
oh my
an hour,
God.
40 minutes. It's past midnight here. So we're into Sunday morning. I want to thank you for spending the time. And we didn't even plan this. This was not a planned thing. I just texted her. I said, hey, would you be interested in coming live with me? And she was like, yeah, sure. I didn't take my eyelashes off yet. So, so I was like, okay, all right, let's do it. Sleuthie, I want to thank you for what you do and what you continue to do. I mean, listen, we are not going to be able to please everybody. I will not be able to please everybody. We all have our opinions. We all are entitled to like the things that we, you know, hear or see. We have the ability to not like the things that we see and hear. So that's what makes this, you know, open sourcing and crowdsourcing and speaking to people and getting people's thoughts and opinions. And that's important. And I wanted to be able to have your voice heard and have the voice of all who are out there sleuthing in some different shape or form of capacity. And I appreciate you coming on with me. Do you have any like final words that you want to say to anybody out there that's listening or anything?
No, not really. But I do appreciate you having this and letting us have a voice, because I think it's been a little bit, I don't even know the word that I'm looking for, but it's like disheartening that that we do just want to help. So having someone whose voice matters, give us a voice that matters, so that we can maybe get back to being able to help, which is really all that we want to do. So I know there's a lot of people very happy that you did this tonight.
Excellent. I'm so happy that we had this opportunity to do this, and I want to do more of this, not just with this case, with other cases as well. So will you promise to maybe come back sometime soon? And
Oh, of course.
all right, awesome. Hey guys, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who watch the replay, who give the thumbs up, who like and subscribe. If you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, please consider subscribing. Hit that red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. All one word, DutyRon, and go over to DutyRon.com, where you will see all different newsletters and folders on these different cases. DutyRon.com, you could send me messages if you have tips, leads, or ideas or comments and suggestions. Send them over there. I get hate mail there too, so you could send whatever you want to send there. It doesn't matter.
Same. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I'm all good. Hey, as I always like to end all these things, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially these 4 victims' families, the community in Moscow, Idaho. We send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Sleuthie over here, Good night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Be safe.
Take care.